It was like a train running over my mind. And since then, I have been through many stages of being diagnosed with an incurable condition. If you are struggling with a disability or if with your emotions, talk to people, go dance, sing along, try to learn a new thing, try to learn an instrument, try to be excited about new things, because there's so much more you can do, even though your whole world seems that it's collapsing. I have been suffering with neurologic symptoms for years, for about 10 years, but I always got like misdiagnosed with something else, and then when it was around a year ago, it started to get real bad again, and I went to the doctor here in Canada, and we had an MRI done, and the doctors that saw that exam said, it looks like you have MS, but MS is a disease that takes a long time to get really diagnosed. So I was for a year in that I might have MS. I was just waiting, and then around 4 months ago, I had an appointment with a specialist in MS in the city, and then he gave me the final diagnosis.
What was that like?
I think because I experienced other traumas in my life, I have kind of that delayed when I have news like that in my life. So I remember the day I went to this doctor, and he had all my exams open, and he was like going through everything, all my symptoms, and then he told me that I actually had MS. I looked at him, and I remember I asked, okay, what do we do now? Let's do it. What do we do now? And he was surprised by my reaction. He was like, I will explain what the disease is, and I will go over what the treatment is, but you can go home and you can talk to your loved ones and decide on things. But I was like, yeah, let's start it. Let's start this treatment. And then when I left the office, I was walking back to the car. All started to really sink in my mind, and then everything, oh my gosh, and my relationship and my career, and I just started my life in Canada. What will I do? And my immigration process, because now I have a new condition, I will have to update that. And my family, oh my gosh, my mom is in Brazil, and I'm losing time to be healthy with her, and I'm here so far, and all of that. It was like a train running over my mind in the way from the office to the car, and then in the car, the parking lot to the apartment. It was like pure tears, and since then I have been through many stages of being diagnosed with an incurable condition.
Once you got home and each day went by,
Yeah.
as you know, you're processing, what did you start to do? Like what was your plan or your reaction to this over days and weeks?
Yeah. It feels like grieving. It felt very much, I lost my dad when I was a teenager, and I could remember how it was, the process, because it was like I was going through that again. But now I was grieving myself, the body that I used to have, and the plans that I used to have. So I remember the first morning that I woke up after that diagnosed. It was the first thing that clicked in my head. Oh my gosh, I have multiple sclerosis. And I was still having my flare-up, so I was still feeling very much sick, so it was hard to forget that I had that. And then I went through grieving, all the grieving process. I was angry, and then I started to miss who I was, so I felt a little detached of my personality, we have a word for missing in my language that is saudade, and it is in one word the feeling of missing something very much, the painful feeling of missing something. So I started to have saudade for what I was, the, the concept of myself that I had. And so it was angry, and then missing, and then super sad, a little depressed, especially because the treatment for flare-ups involves a type of medication that makes you depressed naturally. And after that, I started to embrace my new life, and I actually started finding joy in accommodating my feelings and making a whole new thing with my life. It was like, okay, let's figure out how it is to walk with a cane. Let's figure out how it is. What will I do with my career now? What can I do to accommodate my new needs better? So it was like having fun planning your new life, because that was the new life that I was forced to have.
You're posting on social media now too, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Tell me about these posts and why you're doing them.
Yeah. I was never very out there on social media. And I think because my career involves recording things and promoting things, I never wanted to use my personal social medias like that. But then I decided to promote an event to raise funds for MS Canada because I wanted to be useful in my own condition. And I didn't want to shock people, my loved ones in Brazil and in Canada, saying, hey guys, I am promoting this event for MS Canada because I have MS. Poof, like that. So I started to record videos about what is it, how am I doing to prepare people for that. And now I am promoting the event.
In some of your posts, you talk about embracing limits and emotions.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
You know, MS has been teaching me that I can focus more on the things that are going well for me. I know it sounds very cliche, but it's only when you really have to do that to maintain yourself sane of your mind that you really understand how that works. These days, when I have something very exciting coming up, for example, this talk to you, I made sure that last night I didn't do anything that would exert myself too much. And so if I had something that I was excited last night, I chose, no, I want to be excited about this interview in the next day. So I'll be extra happy for that, and I will rest tonight. And that's how I have been doing.
How important is support?
So I'm a newcomer in Canada, and I was always very open and always very friendly and having lots of friends in my life. But when I moved to Canada, I saw myself with 2 suitcases and barely a plan. And I landed in my new apartment and I knew no one. No one. So that was the moment that I decided, okay, I'm going to be extra open for life. So I started to say yes for plans, for projects, for volunteer positions, for job opportunities, for clubs, for groups of friends. And because of that, I built around me a very lovely and supportive network. And thank God, because then when I was diagnosed, I didn't feel like I had to deal with that by myself at all, even being miles away from my country.
How much of a learning curve was there for when you got your diagnosis,
Yeah.
or even when you thought it would be a possibility of your understanding of MS to what you now understand?
Yeah, I knew nothing about MS when I had my pre-diagnosed, I had to Google. I know it's not a great idea, but I had to Google. And it was daunting because you see um, stories of people that lost their ability to talk, to breathe by themselves, to walk. But I also saw that so much more was possible for us, that my arts could help me so much, that keep dancing would help me so much. And I focused on that. And because I had my flare up and I went to at least 2 to 3 months, that was very hard to walk. It was very hard to speak because my speech was affected. I couldn't drive during those times because my sight got affected. So I had to learn. I had to learn how to ask for help, simple things like that. Ask for help, ask for friends. I cannot drive today. Can you take me to this appointment? My partner is a huge support for me. So I had to learn how to be okay with him actually carrying me to the washroom, actually feeding me. It is an emotional process there. And I had to learn going to dance class and stopping if I was feeling too dizzy, too losing my balance. Just tell the dance instructor, I need to sit down for a moment, which for a dancer is like, it's something that you never do. You just keep going. But I had to learn how to respect myself.
You talked about moving here and making friends, starting a life, making plans, everything, and you mentioned everything changing.
Yep.
So now, what plans do you have for who you are now?
Yeah. I want to keep telling my story. That's part of the social media plan for me. I don't feel like hiding anymore. I was hiding for a good year, the struggles that I was going through. Now I tell people, and I really want to tell my story. I really want to tell people, if you are struggling with a disability or if with your emotions, talk to people, go dance, sing along, try to learn a new thing, try to learn an instrument, try to be excited about new things, because there's so much more you can do, even though your whole world seems that it's collapsing. So I don't want to hide anymore, and I want to use that as a platform to keep going and to find strength, even for my next career steps.
A lot of that, what you said there, for those things,
Yep.
a lot of that sounds a lot like happiness, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it is. It is very strange that in the moment that I felt like my whole reality was ending, everything that I planned for my future, that was the that was the crack that I need in my reality, to see that light that just now I can. It's like that sense of happiness and that ability to touch the present moment was always there. But after going through all this process and managing all these emotions, it feels like I can touch it. It is tangible for me now.
Thank you for this.
Thank you for letting me share all of this.